Hempstead Board meeting for August 4th, 2020. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Supervisor Clavin.
Here.
Councilman Blakeman.
Here.
Councilman Carini.
Here.
Councilman Diaz-Pasito.
I'm here.
Councilman Dunn.
Here.
Senior Councilman Boosley. Here. Councilman Muscarella.
Yeah. I now ask Councilman Dunn to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Rise, facing my flag, place your right hand over your heart and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, please call the first public hearing.
The first public hearing involves a proposed local law regarding regulations and restrictions to limit parking in Uniondale and Merritt.
Is there any wishes to be heard on this matter? If not, may I have a motion? Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Pasito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Boosley. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please read into the record any written comments received regarding this matter.
We have not received any written comments with regard to this.
Speakers aren't working outside. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
It is a proposed local law regarding parking or standing prohibitions in Uniondale.
Is there any member of the board that wishes to be heard? Or a public? Not, may I have a motion? Second. Aye.
And there are no written.
No written comments, Madam Clerk? None, okay. Madam Clerk, then make a motion.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Pasito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Boosley. Councilman Muscarella.
Madam Clerk, please read the next item of the calendar.
It is a proposed local law regarding arterial stops in Salisbury, Montauk, and Woodmere.
Any member of the board wish to be heard? Any member of the public or written comments? Not, may I have a motion?
I move that the public hearing be closed and the local law adopted.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Pasito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Boosley. Councilman Muscarella.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
The proposed revised public parking field maps in Franklin Square.
Any member of the board wish to be heard on this matter? Not, Madam Clerk, any comments to be read?
No emails received.
Any member of the public wish to be heard on this matter? If not, any motion?
I move that the public hearing be closed and that the revised maps be approved.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Pasito. Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Boosley. Councilman Muscarella.
Madam Clerk, please call the next public hearing.
We have a proposed local law in relation to investigation of applications and issuance of peddlers and solicitors licenses.
Any wish to be heard on this matter on the board? Any member of the public? Madam Clerk, any comments to be read?
No emails received.
May I have a motion?
I move that the public hearing be closed and the local law adopted.
Supervisor, please a motion, we get an order this time because I'm like confusing or Michelle about
Talk in the mic.
involving, if I have this correct, this is the investigation application.
Speak in the mic, please.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it.
This is the one involving investigation peddlers.
Yes.
Yes. This would need to be, legal record open and continue to call the hearing. Until September 8th.
Can I have a motion to leave the public?
Okay.
I'm sorry, Councilman?
Yes. I move that we keep the record open and that we reserve the seat. Is that the correct motion?
Legal record open and continue the public hearing.
Continue the public hearing until the next meeting, September the 8th. That's my motion.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Pasito. Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Boosley. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call the next hearing.
A proposed local law in relation to promoting healthful environments for animals.
Does any member of the board wish to be heard on this matter? Any member of the public wish to be heard on this matter? Hold on.
Can someone just please explain what this
I'm sorry, can you please go up to the mic at the back so we can hear? Thank you. Your name and address for the record, please?
I am Madden Hempstead. Can someone please explain what this is about?
Commissioner?
Like to start, actually, we didn't put this on the account. I'd like to start to speak. Mr. Cobb, are you aware?
I can't hear.
Help, please. Charles Colby?
As the supervisor, this provides more healthful environments for animals by lowering the maximum temperature that are allowed to be left in either outside or inside, 95 degrees to 85 degrees, to ensure that they play well.
Thank you.
Can you please not stand in front of
So
my
this is
camera?
not pertaining to some kind of class where 2 employees will be sent regarding aerosol spray? That's not a different resolution?
No, that's something else.
That's something else? Thank you, Commissioner Moreno. No, that's something else.
Okay, so I'd just like to point out that no one from the animal shelter seemed to understand what this was about. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Anybody else from the public wish to be heard on this matter?
Yeah.
Okay. Please give your name and address for the record.
Peter J. Merriday, Baldwin. My concern again is, as always, the fiscal impact with regard to this particular proposal, as well as the fact. The question that is ringing in my head is, how were they being addressed in this hot weather prior to this being enacted? I have a concern about that. And while I'm here, I'm concerned with this particular format as far as public comment, because with all due respect, Supervisor, you're rushing the issue of public comment so quick that whoever may be in the overflow may not be able to get here to actually give comment to whatever situations we are paying taxes for. So if we can get a little more detail as to what the fiscal impact is, how is this going to be implemented, and who actually is going to be doing the work and monitoring that it's being done effectively so that the welfare of the animals are protected. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Colby?
Supervisor, this is enforced by the Nassau County Police with the current jurisdiction of our animal control officers. We do rely on police and statements from watchful citizens and speakers as well.
Okay. Thank you. Any other member of the
Yes,
public
I'd like to be heard.
I'm sorry, if you'd like to speak, sir, you have to go around
Yes,
the side
I will.
with your name and address. Thank you. Please give your name and address for the record. Thank you.
That's 1165 Orange Street, Franklin Square. The details, by state law, the details of resolution should be on the website prior to the hearing. That's the state law. It was enacted 7 years ago, February 2nd, 2012. And also, can the people who answer the questions, the commissioners, lawyers, can they speak into the microphone? Because the people on the live stream cannot hear people talking without a microphone. It's just muted, okay? So I just ask that everyone who speaks, speak into a mic so the live stream people can hear it. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public who speak on this matter? If not, Madam Clerk, can I have a motion?
I move that this item be continued until September 8th or some other time. That we doing it for September 8th or a different day?
No, September 8th.
Okay, that-
That's open.
Yeah.
Continue to the public hearing, continue to the
That this matter be, this hearing can be kept open until September 8th.
Supervisor Clayton?
Aye.
Councilman Clayton?
Aye.
Councilman Carini?
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Padrón?
Aye.
Councilman Dunn?
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby?
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella?
Aye.
Can you please? Thank
Madam
you.
Clerk, please call the next item. Oh, Madam Clerk, just for, it's good, do we have any written comments on this item?
We did not.
Okay, and Madam Clerk, can you read the next item?
We have a proposed local law in relation to increasing the maximum fines for illegal dumping of refuse and garbage on vacant lots or streets.
Any member of the board wish to be heard?
I think it's very important that we pass this, and we people who have decided now that they should go and jump on vacant lots rather than taking care of as they should.
Councilwoman, you're right, and there was a recent story in Newsday earlier this year that the landfills on Long Island will be closing. Brookhaven is the last large landfill. Everyone's sort of been put on notice about this, and to deter any additional illegal dumping in any community, that is why the town board is going to increase these fees, because with the landfills closing and the cost, there is speculation that will take place, and we're not going to allow that to happen in any community, and we're going to strictly enforce it. So thank you to the town board for working on increasing these fees for the betterment of every community in the area. Does any other member of the board wish to be heard on this?
I think it's very important that the public helps us with this. If they let us know, we will have someone to take care of.
Absolutely, absolutely. Any member of the audience wish to be heard on this?
Yes.
Okay. Please give your name and address for the record, please.
Peter J. Meredith, Baldwin resident. My concern, I applaud this initiative. Again, my concern has to do with enforcement and the long-term objective with regard to this situation that seems to occur largely in, let's say, the more underserved communities of the township, where residents have made their requests heard, but they don't seem to be getting any responses and follow-up. So again, for those members of the community who were not allowed to be in here or not able to come, it speaks volumes that we keep initiating these processes, but somehow the rubber is not meeting the road. And we also are curious as to where these fees and fines are actually going, because programs and services in these underserved communities continue to be diminished. So if someone could give us some direction with regard to that, some accounting, we will have a better understanding, and whatever programs are going to be implemented, if you involve the community leaders who will continue to be left out of this discussion and implementation, it would be appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, just so you know, this really stemmed from the meeting of all the town supervisors, county executives, that was held by a long-based organization that were notifying everybody about the closures of the dumps, and the fact that illegal dumping could potentially be an uptick, and that's why we, got aggressive early. The dumps are probably going to close in the next 2 years, according to Brookhaven. Many of the products are already shipped off the island, and this is getting ahead of the curve, and it'll be enforced. Charles Covey? Mr. Covey, the enforcement?
Yes, it's
They can't hear you.
civil penalty, so all of the money goes to the town of Hempstead. So
Thank you, Mr. Covey.
it's in the nature of the civil penalty under the municipal home rule law, so all the money goes to the town of Hempstead as opposed to the fines, which is split.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, are there any letters that need to be read?
There were no emails received on this hearing.
Oh, sorry. Like to be heard, please. Just give me your name and address in the back line. Thank you.
My name is Martin, and I live in Hempstead, and I go to school in the school district. I'm part of a community of people who decided to start cleaning up our neighborhoods. We call it Tribe Council, and we're talking about the dumps and stuff that were dumped in our communities, but our communities are still dirty right now. Last weekend, a couple of us, we've been doing this for 5 weekends straight, and I've been trying to get in contact with a lot of officials. And actually, I've heard from Councilwoman Goolsby, came out to the last fire cleanups. That's for everybody else. I haven't heard anything from anybody. We are actually taking our time out to clean up our communities because we love
Is the question regarding this legislation?
Yeah, so look at the funds. How are the funds from those funds going to be used to make sure that our communities stay clean?
Like I said, you said you live in the incorporated village of Hempstead?
Yes.
Where do you live? Okay, so most of that would fall under the jurisdiction of the village of Hempstead. If you'd like, after the meeting with the council and I, we can get you in touch with the mayor. But this would be enacted for all the non-incorporated areas. And it really comes down to the fact that, our biggest concern after the proposal is
that as well?
What was that?
You know we wanted that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The biggest concern is after the meeting is the fact that commercial debris. That's the biggest concern, that a lot of these commercial entities who maybe are not reputable would look to dump it in certain areas, so that's why we're increasing these fines. So if they're caught, it'll be a real deterrent for allowing, for having them do that. Okay, thank you so much. Anybody else wish to be heard on this? Great, if not, may I have a motion, Councilman Blakeman?
Yes, I move that we leave the record open and continue the public hearing until September 8th.
A second.
Supervisor Clayton?
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman?
Aye.
Councilman Greenie?
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito?
Aye.
Councilman Dunn?
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby? Councilman Mosquarella?
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
It is a proposed local law entitled tow cars by adding a new subsection E thereof in relation to regulations for heavy-duty towing.
Is there any member of the board that wishes to be heard on this?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, I would just like a brief summary as to why we're adding the new subsection. If you have someone who could explain that.
Mr. Galvin? And thank you for speaking into the mic, Mr. Galvin.
Yes, we were approached by various members of the industry saying that when it comes to towing vehicles in excess of 10,000 pounds, it's safe and prudent to only use tow trucks that have 3 permanent axles. I checked this out with various industry representatives, and they all emphatically said that it was a great idea.
So it's for vehicles that exceed 10,000 pounds,
Yes, Council.
and that they have to have a heavy towing truck.
That's right. We agree on
Okay,
that.
but we're not showing any favoritism towards one tow company versus another.
Nope. Thank you.
Good.
Any other board member wish to have any questions? I've received a number of slips on this. The first I'm going to start is with George Latham. Lindeman. I'm sorry, Mr. Lindeman. Please come up to the mic and give your name and address. Thank you so much.
George Lindeman from Cross Island Record Service, 635 Commercial Avenue, Garden City, New York, 11530. The new regulations are to promote safety on this. Right now, there's no regulation, so anybody can show that the truck is not adequate to tow a heavy vehicle, which puts everybody in jeopardy because they're not going to be able to stop and they're not going to be able to steer. A tow truck is like a seesaw, so when you put the weight on the back, your front tires come off the ground. So you need to have a proper truck utilized to tow the vehicle. And basically, the only way to do that is to have a 3-axle tow truck, because that's the only one that's going to legally scale to carry the weight. In New York State, the maximum allowable weight per axle is 22,400 pounds. A single axle or a 2-axle tow truck would almost every time exceed those weight when you're towing anything medium or heavy. At 10,000 pounds, that would require the truck to have dual rear wheels. So most small tow trucks, or light duty as they call them, are not capable of carrying them legally. So they would be doing it unsafely. At the same time, you would need a Class A license, tow license, to tow that. And that just steps up the whole other ballgame of from light duty to heavy duty tow. Any other questions?
No, that's all. Anything you want to add to it?
No, but actually, the past couple of years, you guys have done a great job with the rotation and stepping up, and everything seems to be moving forward in a positive direction. And the last thing I will add, though, is that as far as the using the heavy-duty tow truck, a lot of times one tow truck can do the capabilities of what it would take 2 smaller trucks to do. This would also increase efficiency to clear the wrecks, to clear the accident scenes, to open up the roads, which would reduce secondary accidents, which is a huge concern. And it also puts the town or the police back at work, where they don't have to sit there with a block road, because the bigger tow truck can get in there and take care of the accident.
Great. Thank you very much for that feedback. We're very appreciative of it. Thank you. Chris Tartaglia? Your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Supervisor. My name is Chris Tartaglia with High Point Engineering. I'm actually appearing on behalf of a later meeting, the application for Gemma. Not this matter.
Oh, okay, all right. Thank you. Then it was great seeing you. We'll catch you later on, all right? be heard on this matter? Madam Clerk, are there any correspondence?
No, we received no emails on this item.
Great. Then may I have a motion?
Yes, I move that we leave the record open and continue the public hearing until September 8th.
And second motion.
Supervisor Clayton?
Aye.
Councilman Blakely?
Aye.
Councilman Creedy?
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Padrón? Aye. Councilman Dunn?
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Guzman? Councilman Mascarello?
Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed local law in relation to the definition of the term program time period applicable to apprenticeship training programs.
Does any member of the board wish to be heard on this? Any member of the public? Madam Clerk, are there any correspondence?
We have received none.
If not, may I have a motion?
Yes, I move that we leave the record open and continue the public hearing until September 8th.
Second motion.
Supervisor Clayton?
Aye.
Councilman Blakely?
Aye.
Councilman Creedy?
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Padrón? Councilman Dunn?
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Guzman?
Aye.
Councilman Mascarello?
Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed increase and improvement of the Franklin Square Water District.
Does any member of the board wish to be heard on this? Any member of the public wish to be heard on this? Sir, can you come on up there and give your name and address for the record?
Hi, my name is John Hughes. The address is 120 Madison Avenue, Franklin Square. And I'm the superintendent of Franklin Square Water District. And we proposed a bond for a 1/4 dioxin removal plant. And it's set to be started in April.
Thank you very much, Superintendent. Great work. Anybody else wish to be heard on this? If not, may I have a motion?
Yes, I move that we leave the record open and continue the public hearing until September 8th.
Second.
And we'll note for the record there were no emails received.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Supervisor
Excuse me.
Clayton?
Aye.
Councilman Blakely?
Aye.
Councilman Creedy?
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Padrón?
Aye.
Councilman Dunn?
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Guzman?
Aye.
Councilman Mascarello?
Aye.
Madam Clerk, could you please call the next public hearing?
We have the proposed renewal contract for furnishing fire protection services in the Anglesey Fire Protection District in the incorporated village of East Rockaway.
Don't have any slips on this. Does any member of the board want to be heard? Any member of the public want to be heard on this? If not, may I have a motion?
Supervisor, I move that we leave the record open until September 8th.
Second motion.
And note that there were no emails received. Supervisor Clayton?
Thanks for making it easier, Madam Clerk. I vote aye.
Supervisor Clayton?
Aye.
Councilman Blakely?
Aye.
Councilman Creedy?
Aye.
Councilman Diaz-Padrón?
Aye.
Councilman Dunn?
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Guzman?
Aye.
And Councilman Mascarello?
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
All right, we have two related applications of Gemma Realty Corp. for rezoning from Residence B District to Business District in Uniondale, as well as an application of Gemma Realty Corp. For a permit to include gasoline service station within the GSS District in Uniondale.
So they're being called simultaneously? Yes, okay, great. First, I'm gonna hold off. We have Chris. Sorry, Chris, I'm killing your name. What is it? Come on up for the presentation. Give your name and address for the record.
Good morning, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board. Chris Tartaglia from the firm High Point Engineering, 521 Conklin Street, Farmingdale, New York. I am appearing on behalf of the applicant in the capacity of the engineer. However, as a matter of form, typical form, the attorney is due up to make the main presentation. As is typical format, I am available as the engineer for any technical questions which the board may have as they may arrive.
Fantastic. And then after they sanitize, we'll ask the attorney to come on up. So if you could just step to the side.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please. Name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon, Supervisor Clayton, members of the board. John Ferretti, Nicolini Paradise Ferretti and Sabella, 114 Old Country Road, Mineola, New York, 11501. Today I'm joined, as we met already, Mr. Chris Tartaglia of High Point Engineering, as well as Mr. Joseph Gemma, one of the principals of Gemma Realty Corp., who is in one of the alternate rooms today. Supervisor, members of the board, we are here before you today requesting a partial change of zone for the west rear portion of the applicant's property. Most of the property is zoned business. The rear portion is zoned Residence B. We're seeking a rezoning of the rear portion from Residence B to business and inclusion of the whole parcel, including the gas service station, into the GSS district. The subject parcel is located at 324 Uniondale Avenue, Uniondale, New York, on the corner of Uniondale Avenue and Midwood Street, with 100.58-foot frontage on Uniondale Avenue and 120.95 feet on Midwood Street. Of the 120.95 feet on Midwood, the front 100.58 feet is zoned business, the rear 20.37 feet is zoned Residence B. The property is approved by the 1,594 square foot, one-story building with three automotive service bays. The site has 2 full service pumps, both contain diesel and unleaded fuel. There's an existing storage shed in the rear of the building, which applicant uses to store oil, filters, and other mechanical parts, which applicant seeks to maintain. The storage shed has been surrounded by 9-foot tall evergreen trees and is not visible from the street. The business has existed for over 40 years, as the original gasoline service station was granted under Town Board Resolution number 140279. Anthony and Joseph Gemma are the principals and operators and have operated out of this location since the inception of the business. There's no convenience store on this property and no plans to have a convenience store. Hours of operation for the gas station are 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. For the repair shop, the hours of operation are 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday and 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Saturday. The repair shop is closed on Sundays. There are 6 employees for the station. 3 employees handle cash, credit cards, and gas pumps, and the other 3 are mechanics. The site has a free air compressor. The station has a professionally installed natural gas backup generator, which automatically kicks on in the event of a power outage. There are presently 2 curb cuts on Midwood and 2 curb cuts on Uniondale Avenue, allowing for flow of traffic. Refuse collection occurs once a week on Tuesdays, and there is a refuse container on the premises for trash. There are no sales of vehicles nor leasing of vehicles on the property. 2 new 10,000-gallon underground storage tanks have been installed within the last 3 years under Town of Hempstead permit number 2015-17162. The site cannot be included in the GSS while the rear of the property is zoned Residence B, so we're asking to rezone that and include the whole site into the GSS. The site supports an operating gasoline service station. The underlying zoning, which is mostly business, now will be fully business. While there are some shortcomings to the requirements of the GSS, as outlined in my dispensation letter to the board, those variations are de minimis. With regard to fencing, my client has spoken to the residential property owner on Midwood to the immediate west of the subject parcel. Mr. Gemma has, at his own expense, replaced the neighbor's fencing with 6-foot white PVC fencing, which is the type of fencing that the neighbor preferred. In addition to replacing the neighbor to the west fencing, the applicant has planted 7-foot-high evergreen trees along the western property line. Curbs are existing but will be repaired and or replaced as necessary. Lighting will not interfere with residential properties. Oversight allows for easy vehicular movement. There is an attendant present at all times. The establishment is open for business. We believe the modifications proposed are a significant upgrade to the property and to the surrounding area. At this time, if there are any questions from Mrs. Tartaglia or myself, we would be happy to entertain them.
Any members of the board have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Any member of the board? Any member of the board wish to be heard at this time?
I would like to reserve this application until September 8th, and I want to make sure that they have contacted all the residents who live around this area before, and I want to make sure that you have the information to give to me before you make the next application.
Ms. Ferretti, will you work with the councilwoman to make that happen? Thank you very much.
I second the senior councilwoman's motion.
Oh, hold on. Before we do so, I want to see if any members of the public wish to be heard. Your name and address for the record, please.
May I ask you first if there are any members from Unionville here who live around this area, because I know they had contacted me, and I want to make sure that if anybody's here, I want to make sure that they know about this so they can come to the next meeting and tell them.
Well, a number of them are outside. Councilwoman Dewsby, there are a number of them weren't allowed to come into the space because they...
Excuse me, they will be allowed, the ones who are eligible, and this is contained, then they will be here. I wonder if they're here, but they will have some other.
And just to be fair, that any people in the lobby want to be heard are absolutely going to be allowed to be heard. So we shouldn't be, giving the impression that nobody was allowed to be heard in this. If there's somebody outside, which in case we've already had 2 hearings, they were brought inside. So rest assured that people who are here want to be heard, we're letting them be heard today.
I appreciate that, since freedom of speech is the First Amendment. I do know when I can speak. Meet a Mary Baldwin resident. My concern with regard to this application, considering that Baldwin, Uniondale, Roosevelt, our community seem to be inundated with gas stations with or without convenience store attachments. Again, the concern with regard to the proliferation of these institutions and establishments doesn't seem to be abated at all with regard to this council moving with other aspects of business development that could create more jobs and more environmental safety precautions for the residents who live in those areas. So I think it should be duly noted in the fact that more residents were not able to be physically in this space, and the accommodations for their speaking seems to be stunted at best, draws great concern as we go into another scenario where we're going to have increases in our taxes and cut in our programs, but let's just generate more opportunities for more gas stations, more convenience stores, and just the location of these facilities in the communities that continue to be underserved, underrepresented, and have the least amount of resources when it comes down to environmental protection. So I'm hoping that if there are residents who are in the other rooms that may or may not know that they have the opportunity to speak and did not get an opportunity to sign in and duly note that they wanted to speak, are able to be heard between now and September 8th. Thank you.
They clearly obviously they did, because we've had a number of residents who came in from the other room, so they're aware if they're sitting in the overflow capacity area, they are eligible to speak. And as I said, we've already indicated we've had at least 1 or 2 that came in from the other room, so just rest assured that isn't the case. In addition, we've also had the safeguard of allowing any email comments regarding these hearing being read in by our fine clerk. Chief of Staff?
I have been in contact with these residents. Some of them have called me, and they have called me on the Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Some of them, I know that some of them are aware of this, and I've spoken to them about it. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing, in order to make sure that they will be able to come, and the others that have not been contacted by the company that do all of this, the attorneys, will make sure that they make sure that everybody else within the area knows. But I do know some of them. That's why I'm delaying this until September 8th, when we will have, they can come back and make the applications and be aware. So thank you so much for that, but I'm on top.
Speak in the mic.
Thank you, Councilman. I'm sorry.
Councilman, I think you covered everything, but I just wanted to make it clear and clarify that when you said reserve to the 8th and also to continue, so more people can show up and speak on September 8th.
And by the way, that's an important point. Thank you, Chief of Staff, that by reserving to the 8th, that allows more people to come on the 8th and speak about it if they need to. Thank you for pointing that out as well. Young man in the back.
Hempstead, I just want to make sure, just like you said, just now, that we get more people from the place that we're talking about, because we did have a couple of things from Unionville on the docket, and there's not many people from Unionville in here. I don't know if they're sitting outside or whatever, but I know that they would definitely like to have to say something. I know one person that's outside that lives directly in Unionville, and I think that if he knew something was being said, he wanted to be in here, so I'm not sure.
No, they've been told that they go to the outflow and they want to speak or whatnot. They're gonna walk him in, absolutely.
Yeah, we just want to make sure that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Right.
Thank you. Any other comment on this here? Okay, thank you. wish to be heard on this hearing? Madam Clerk, any emails?
There were no emails received thus far on this hearing.
Okay, and I know Councilwoman will make that motion again.
I move the application to reserve until September 8th.
Second.
And not only that, the member attorneys will ask you to do. Thank you.
Supervisor Clayton.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilman Muscarella.
Madam Clerk, please call the first case on the decision calendar.
The first decision is a proposed local law regarding regulations and restrictions to limit parking in Elmont.
May I have a motion on this item?
I move that the item be approved.
Supervisor Clayton.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilman Muscarella.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item on the decision calendar.
The next decision is regarding the proposed local law regarding parking or standing prohibitions in Elmont.
May I have a motion on this matter?
I move that the local law be approved.
Second.
Supervisor Clayton.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item on the decision calendar.
The next decision is regarding arterial stops in South Hempstead.
May I have a motion?
Supervisor, I move that the proposed local law be granted.
Supervisor Clayton.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini. Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item on the decision calendar.
We have a proposed handicap parking on public streets in Elmont, Franklin Square, Lynbrook, West Hempstead.
May I have a motion?
I move that the item be adopted.
Supervisor Clayton.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini. Councilman D'Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby. Councilman Muscarella.
Madam Clerk, please call the administrative calendar.
There are items 1 through 71 on the administrative calendar. I also have 18 resolutions that are of an urgent or emergency nature. The first emergency resolution authorizes the grant of funds to Adelphi University, located in the town of Hempstead, to be paid from monies received by the town through the CARES Act to assist them in paying for unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The second emergency resolution authorizes the grant of funds to Hofstra University, located in the town of Hempstead, to be paid from monies received by the town through the CARES Act to assist them in paying for unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The third resolution authorizes the grant of funds to Illinois College, located within the town of Hempstead, to be paid from money received by the town through the CARES Act to assist them in paying for unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The fourth resolution authorizes the grant of funds to Nassau Community College, located within the town of Hempstead, to be paid from monies received by the town through the CARES Act to assist them in paying for unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The fifth resolution authorizes the grant of funds to the Incorporated Village of Cedarhurst, located in the town of Hempstead, to be paid from monies received by the town through the CARES Act to assist them in paying for unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The sixth resolution authorizes the grant of funds to the Incorporated Village of East Rockaway, located in the town of Hempstead, to be paid from monies received by the town through the CARES Act to assist them in paying for unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The seventh resolution authorizes the grant of funds to the Incorporated Village of Freeport, located in the town of Hempstead, to be paid from monies received by the town through the CARES Act to assist them in paying for unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The eighth resolution authorizes the grant of funds to the Incorporated Village of Hempstead, located in the town of Hempstead, to be paid from monies received by the town through the CARES Act, to assist them in paying for unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The ninth resolution authorizes a grant to the Incorporated Village of Island Park, located in the town of Hempstead, to be paid from monies received by the town through the CARES Act, to assist them in paying for unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The 10th resolution authorizes the grant of funds to the Incorporated Village of Lynbrook, located in the town of Hempstead, to be paid from monies received by the town through the CARES Act, to assist them in paying for unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The 11th resolution authorizes the grant of funds to the Incorporated Village of South Floral Park, located in the town of Hempstead, to be paid from monies received by the town through the CARES Act, to assist them in paying for unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The 12th resolution authorizes the grant of funds to the Incorporated Village of Valley Stream, located in the town of Hempstead, to be paid from monies received by the town through the CARES Act, to assist them in paying for unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The 13th resolution authorizes amendment to the 2020 adopted budget to increase general fund estimated revenues, an increase to general fund appropriations, an increase to the general fund undistributed other expense account, and the increase of the CARES Act assistance revenue account in the town of Hempstead general fund undistributed. The 14th resolution authorizes amendment to the 2020 adopted budget to increase general fund estimated revenues, an increase to general fund appropriations, an increase to the general fund undistributed other expense account, and the increase of the CARES Act assistance revenue account in the town of Hempstead general fund undistributed. The 15th resolution authorizes the transfer of monies received by the town of Hempstead through the CARES Act to fund unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The 16th resolution authorizes the transfer of monies received by the town of Hempstead through the CARES Act to fund unbudgeted necessary expenses incurred directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. The 17th resolution authorizes the ratification and affirmation of a short-term jet ski lease agreement with Student Surf. The 18th resolution accepts the proposal of Walden Environmental Engineering, PLLC, to provide professional services for valuation services and feasibility study related to the potential acquisition of the water systems of the New York American Water Company, Inc. within the town of Hempstead. These items will appear as 72 to 89 on the administrative calendar.
Mr. Supervisor, just a point of information. To date, the villages of Lawrence and Malvern have not submitted their application for funding under the CARES Act, and when they do, we will act expeditiously with respect to those requests.
Thank you, Councilor. Does any member of the board wish to sever any item? Does any member of the board wish to be heard on the administrative calendar?
Supervisor, if I may, I just have a question on item number 5. I guess it's similar to a few of the items 4 through 8 or 3 through 8. If I could just ask Commissioner Rockcamp, I was contacted by some constituents specifically to item number 5 regarding Section 43, Block 396 in the unincorporated area of Island Park. I know that this is a unique situation regarding the asbestos abatement. And just for the record, if Commissioner Rockcamp can just walk, I guess, me and the board and those listening at home through the steps that got us to this resolution.
Good morning, Supervisor, members of the town board. So these resolutions were approved for demolition by the town board at previous town board meetings. And when the asbestos tests were done on these properties, it was found to have an extremely high amount of asbestos, where the asbestos was actually in the joint compound, the spackle.
So to knock down, to remove all the sheetrock first, we were getting estimates of $40,000, $50,000, and then we would have to demo the house on top of it. So what this resolution does is we went out to bid, and there was 16 bidders for these projects, and what they're going to do is do what's considered a controlled demolition, where we have our air monitoring companies there who monitor the air while they demo this house, and that everything in the house now is considered asbestos-contained material and has to be dumped accordingly at a safe location.
So, Commissioner, just to reiterate, these awarding of these bids is really to keep everyone safe and to make sure that the building department has discretion over how this house or the home is demolished.
Yes, it's exactly that. It's meant to keep everyone safe. That's why we have the air monitoring company, as well as to keep the price lower, so that this way, when somebody wants to buy that property, this does not get huge tax lien on it, so this way they can build it and develop that for another single-family home.
Great, thank you, Commissioner.
Board member, have any other comments on
I
this?
just like to thank the commissioner for being so concerned and doing such a great job.
Thank you. I have a number of slips on the administrative calendar. First, I'll start with Stuart Kroll. Kroll, if you give your name and address for the record.
Stuart Kroll, Great Neck. I was talking about item 52.
Which one?
52, I believe you said.
No, we can hear you. Okay, good. I've had numerous and well-founded complaints regarding the town shelter over the last few years. However, I never denied that the town ran an excellent spay-neuter program. This program has been closed since the onset of the COVID pandemic. At this point, almost all similar programs have been reopened. As an example, the ASPCA in Glendale has been open, albeit on a reduced basis, within a month and a half. Due to the pandemic itself and the bad kitten year, there's much suffering for cats on the street. Trappers are doing their part, but they have few alternatives as to where to fix their cats. Most vets charge prohibitive prices which rescuers cannot afford to pay. For some reason that I will speculate on later, perhaps as a cost-cutting measure, always of course on the backs of the animals, the town has decided to issue an RFP to see if any vet would be willing to take over the spay-neuter program. Apparently there was only one reply, Central Vet at Valley Stream. This is a potentially large contract in excess of $500,000. As such, we need to know everything we can about the reputation of the vet to whom we might be entrusting our animals. I have investigated thoroughly and read all reviews that I could find. What they have in common was that almost universally they were beyond bad, and I'm going to go through a few of them. In most cases, I'll be paraphrasing. The first one was from somebody named Maybell, who said about her visit, I called 4 times a day for 4 days with no callback. Staff was insanely rude. In it purely as a cash grab. Review number 2 was from a Tanya Course. Again, I paraphrase, absolute worst vets in the world, 11-year-old Ridgeback, fell down steps, dealt with 3 vets, each worse than the previous one, $2,000 bill left after 1 day. The prize review goes to Jericho 490. Brought in a boxer with a growth on his right paw. The doctor did no biopsy or other tests, said it was a tumor, which would be $1,800 to remove. They took the dog for a second opinion. The doctor did a biopsy. It turns out it was a wart. The bill was $200. In summation, we are asking that the town turn down the proposal of Central Vet to run our TNR program. They are clearly incompetent and nasty, not a very good combination. Furthermore, we requested to immediately reinstate the TNR program at the town shelter. We presented a petition with over 21,000 signatures. Are you willing to ignore the relevant wishes of that many voters and concerned citizens? The people have made their wishes clear, and it is your job to fulfill them. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Meriden, name and address for the record, please.
Peter J. Meriden, Baldwin resident. Where do I begin? First of all, it's kind of hard to talk about issues on the administrative calendar when you were just told 18 of an emergency nature. You have no details around it. The colleges and the municipalities that are seeking additional funding, the residents of the unincorporated hamlets, outlets, and inlets that have no idea of any type of resources since COVID has struck. It's, again, difficult to call to attention the concerns of residents whose voices continue to not be heard. I had asked if there was a write-up with regard to those 18 issues so that I could bring to this podium some of the concerns of many of the residents who can't be here because they have to work to look for jobs or they have to stay with their children in light of this pandemic. Again, my concerns as it pertains to this administrative calendar is the same old with regard to the lack of diversity. I still see some similar names with a number of these contracts. My concern again has to do with the lack of inclusion as it pertains to veteran-owned, minority-owned, and women-owned businesses. And again, the resources that are being distributed through this CARES Act to colleges and universities that, according to my journalism contacts and what I'm reading online, they're already getting emergency funds. But we have residents, as outlined by the number of demolitions on these homes that have been abandoned, and that we have residents who are still living in apartments and rentals, and their sandy damaged homes are in jeopardy if they're not receiving any resources. So again, who is speaking for the voiceless in this township? I would still, again, like to have a write-up because I'm at a loss to be able to speak about where my tax dollars are going when I do not know how much has already been expended. When all I know is $2 million of $131 million investment in this township, that went to pantries, when we have people who are losing their jobs, losing their homes on a regular basis. But definitely, let's take care of those incorporated villages that are already overtaxing their residents. Let's take care of these educational institutions where many people who are probably sitting before me have worked or may work, if and when they may not get reelected here. So it just doesn't seem like we've changed anything here in the town of Hempstead. The patronage, the nepotism, the cronyism, the old one network is alive and kicking.
Mr. Supervisor, may I just respond to what Mita said? Mita, we have granted money from the CARES Act to hospitals that serve both incorporated and unincorporated areas, specifically one in my district, Long Island Jewish Valley Stream, which serves a very diverse population from a geographic area that is probably the most populous in the county, as well as Nassau University Medical Center and other hospitals, as well as food pantries providing PPE to entities in the town of Hempstead. Basically, under the CARES Act, these villages, these incorporated areas, don't qualify for funds. So basically, when they have issues that relate to COVID-19, and they present it to us, and if it is covered under the CARES Act and we can help them out, I think we would be foolish not to, because they're residents of the town as well and pay town taxes.
The other thing I do want to point out is, regarding the CARES Act funding, there's probably no other entity, definitely in New York State, that I don't know that is being more open and transparent, showing every resident, every process, and every expenditure, for putting on a budget line, for making sure we have the receipts, to the point that we're doing things that others aren't. When others said they spent all the money and don't explain why, we're actually can clearly show. Just last week, we had an emergency board meeting where we teamed up with Northwell, where we created, I think it was 15 testing sites throughout the town, with a majority focus on the most heavily hit areas that have not seen a fair display. They've been hit, some communities, more than others across the township. We are utilizing these funds to help people. And I'm proud of doing food banks because there's a 60% increase in the need of food. I stood at the lines at Nassau Community College where dozens were people, hundreds, thousands, were standing in a circle. The testing sites are going to help prevent the second wave. Everything we've done has been open and transparent, and I'm proud to stand with this board and the other entities because you know what, it's not an isolated chamber. We actually have a nice advisory panel that is incredibly diverse from every facet of life, from every community. And when it comes to the villages, you know, we're there for the villages. Some of the funds we're utilizing today are in those hardest hit villages. And I'm proud to say to anybody in this audience or anybody out there, we are doing the most open and transparent and thoughtful process of utilizing these funds. Ask your other jurisdictions. New York State, you got over $4 billion. What have they done with it? Suffolk County, hundreds of millions of dollars. What have you done with it? I know what we've done with it, and frankly, everybody else knows. And we like to team up with people. You know, the town board and I recognized about a month ago, Nassau County came up with a great idea of PPE kits. And we reached across that line to the county to team up to expand that. That's why I said, we've been open, transparent, more than anybody else in this entire process. And I'm proud to stand with every single member of this board. And we're proud to tell you, the colleges today, this is about getting students tested, about getting them back in, getting the teachers there, and getting people back to work. Because the people who work at these four institutions live in the town of Hempstead. This isn't just a teacher we're talking about. It's anything from a public safety aide to anybody in between. But like I said, I'm proud of everything we're doing with these funds. But every resident should know, we're telling you and we're showing you, we're making it very, very open for everybody to see. We actually created additional safeguards in this process. Not only do we have an internal panel that reviews it with a medical expert, we then went the extra yard to make sure we got a regulatory firm. Why? Because we want residents to know it's being done right. It's being done transparent, and we're utilizing these funds. And we're utilizing them in the areas that need it so much. That team up with Northwell last week, ladies and gentlemen, listen, we've all lost somebody in this room. I lost a staff member to COVID-19. Dr. Gates, my friend. My counsel over there, she doesn't like what I say. She contracted COVID-19. And guess what? She had a loss in her family. So we've seen it. And we're utilizing these funds because we don't want to go back in time. We don't want this to be March and April again, where we're sitting in our homes and all we heard were ambulances. We're utilizing these funds for the good of every community, not just a few. And I'm happy to make that statement to everybody here, and I'm happy to do it with this town board. But I will say to you, ask your other entities what they're doing with it. What's New York State doing with $4 billion? I'd love to hear the answer. Do they let you know how they're doing their budget transfers? Because I know John Mascherino puts it out there so everybody can see. So I'm proud of the work we're doing, and we're doing it for every community in the town of Hempstead, because the town of Hempstead was the hardest hit in this area. Councilman Blakeman alluded to it. A hospital in Valley Stream saw the most COVID patients next to Brooklyn, right here in the town of Hempstead. What we're doing is good, what we're doing is right, and what we're doing is open and transparent, and every resident should say, you know what, we're leading by example. What are the other entities doing with their money? Because I know what we're telling you and showing you what we're doing with ours. So thank you very much, and I appreciate you being here as always.
Supervisor, if I could just add to that, I also want to point out that, the town board has really done their due diligence with this CARES Act money. And something that was not mentioned, and I think is important, is that this board, under the leadership of Supervisor Clavin, has also worked with our first responders, the fire service, the volunteer fire service, and at no point during this pandemic was there a 911 call made, was there a call made to one of our many volunteer fire departments in the town of Hempstead who asked where they live or how much money they make. So to suggest that we're only supporting with this money certain communities is, quite frankly, ridiculous. The fire departments that have served some of the hardest hit communities, whether it's in Senior Councilwoman Goosby's district, down in the 5 towns where Councilman Blakeman and I share, or any of the council members' districts, they have all been contacted by the town of Hempstead, and we are working with them to make sure that we can make them whole regarding the thousands and upon thousands of dollars that they spent on PPE to answer the countless amount of 911 calls, transporting people to the hospital, pronouncing people that weren't able to live through their COVID-19 virus. So the work that's being done, like everyone mentioned up here, I really believe is good work. We're making sure that this money is spent correctly, that it is open, that it is transparent, and that we are doing our best to make sure that maybe not all the nearly 800,000 residents can utilize some sort of this CARES Act money, but we are definitely damn well trying our best.
And may I also add, Ms. Mary, thank you for thinking of other people. You know, I have in my councilman district alone over 6,000 people who tested positive. I have lost many, many people that were very dear to me, even across the street from me. So I know how, and I push, and they give, because, you know, I don't let go. That's just like I can do the same thing with you. But we are just now getting ready to, we've already tested more people than you would ever know in my district. And we just, the money that we just are giving now to NYU, we have set up, we have set up more testing in the area, so you could help us with you around talking, just ask people to please go to those sites and make sure that they get. And as far as food is concerned, in Hempstead, I have 3 areas. They without one, but I knew what I needed, and I put them where they need to be placed. In addition to that, we have been very, very helpful. We just gave money to, because they're going to deliver food to the people, to the veterans, our counties, to the veterans, to anyone, you know, ill people, whatever, anyone who needs food will get food through that. That's the other portion that we've done. And I've been in almost all of these places where food is being served. People are being fed. And not anything that they need, as long as legal, we're doing it. I don't know anything that's not legal. I know it's legal, and we're making sure that we follow the CARES Act. We have attorneys who go over all of the applications that we get to make sure that they are legal before we do them. And I can tell you, many people have tried to get money from us, and we know they're not legal, so they won't get it. But if you're legal, you can really let us know, and we'll try to help. Thank you, Ms. Mary.
Thank you, Ms. Murray. And Ms. Murray, I do want to say, Councilman Hitt, you know, this isn't a vacuum. We're doing this stuff. You know what? The areas that are hardest hits are the ones we are focusing on. And she did touch on something. Island Harvest came with a wonderful program for home delivery for seniors and veterans. And it was a program we knew was great. And I know that's something that's very, you know, technical. I'm saying this isn't a vacuum. You know, we have people coming in, but we're talking to people in these communities. You know, Northwell set up facilities primarily in those hardest areas because they're the ones that need it. And I just want you to know, you know, I think you should, you know, take a look at it. But I think at the end, you'll look back and say, they did do it the right way. They just didn't take the money and say they spent it all, not tell us. They tell us what they're doing the whole time. All right, so thank you very much.
In my 12 seconds that are left, I said I'd like to have the write-ups with regard to the 18, if they shouldn't have been listed as emergencies. And for the record, I'm still doing my first responder work because I've been working with a critical care physician since COVID started in Queens. So I agree with you with regard to what's happening, and I'm making sure that our veterans who are passing due to COVID are getting the adequate burials and resources that they need.
Thank you.
So the struggle continues, but I would like to get the write-up with regard to those 18.
We will be happy to get it to you.
Thank you.
Felix Procacci? Name and address for the record, please.
Felix Procacci, 1165 Lawrence Street, Franklin Square. As far as these urgent resolutions, I foil them after every meeting, and sometimes it takes almost a month to get them. Why not just post them online like it was supposed to be prior to the meeting, which is New York State law, as I mentioned earlier. And all the transparency, I welcome it. It needs to be on the website so it's obvious where the spending's done, because if I have to foil it and wait months and then follow up, which I have to do, it doesn't really help. And then I have to share it. So if you put it on your website, it's done.
Just so you know, Mr. Procacci, I hate to ring the parade, but they are online for you to see. So just so you know, okay?
They're online?
They're online for you to say.
Well, I looked at,
And I know you might not think something is of an emergency nature, but I'll tell you right now,
I didn't say
I know, you said something shouldn't be hand-ups, but sometimes, Mr. Kennedy, some things are of emergency nature. In particular, you know what, creating testing is an emergency nature to me. You know what, saving lives is an emergency to me. You know what, helping people get back to work is an emergency to me and this entire town board. So in all due respect to your comments, when it comes to those sort of hand-ups, those are emergencies. And you know what, you're aware of them, they're online to see. But to me, health and safety and food and employment are definitely of the nature that it has to be a hand-up, and it definitely will be.
well, you're not arguing with something I'm not arguing about, but just put them online prior to the meeting, that's what I'm saying. Anyway, item number 52 I'm going to speak about. First of all, this resolution is illegal. No details of this bid were provided in the online resolution as required by New York State's open meeting law. In addition, I oppose this resolution because the whole premise behind it, to avoid contact with outsiders, is misplaced. I have brought a cat into the shelter for TNR, and you make virtually no contact with anyone. You leave the cages in the back, and you come back, and you pick them up. I wonder why Supervisor Clayton feels that gyms can be made safe, but not the Hempstead Animal Shelter, which sees a lot less traffic than the typical gym. From the News 12 report I saw, the town's medical director, Dr. Nathan Newport, is supporting this plan. It is important to note that Dr. Newport is also supported leaving the town's senior centers open after the March 11th pandemic was declared. Dr. Newport is an emergency care doctor whose resume does not include any knowledge of animal shelters and TNR or any expertise in infectious diseases. If the town does not want people passing through the animal shelter, they should get out of the animal shelter business. If the town does not want people walking through the animal shelter, the town board should be asking for proposals to privatize the shelter, not proposals to offload the work they should be performing.
Okay, thank you. And Dr. Dave, I just want to reinforce you, we are so lucky to have you here in the town. You've saved lives of employees, you've helped quarantine people, and as an emergency physician, I really do think you're incredibly qualified. I think you have a thing called a medical degree. And on behalf of all the employees and the people that you've helped in many different levels, I just want to let you know, we appreciate you and we appreciate you helping safeguard the entire world. Diane?
Diane Madden, Hempstead. I would like to ask the board to table item number 52 for numerous reasons. Number one, I would like to ask how this resolution even got to this point and got on this calendar.
Due to the fact that Dr. Dave provides
I can't really hear, so I don't know if people are hearing outside.
we were trying to reduce the public interactions at the animal shelter in certain situations, and we felt that we didn't know how long this would continue based on COVID-19, so we thought that it would be good to offer something out to a public-private partnership, and we did get a response, and due to the response, I think we got a timeline where we can start doing TNR.
Well, there are animal shelters that have been conducting uninterrupted, even minimally, spay neuter, as Mr. Picacci said, contactless. So why would you have to change anything about the TNR program? The one aspect of the animal shelter that's working is now being compromised, and the taxpayers are going to pay the ultimate price for this.
Any other questions?
No, no questions. I'm asking you to sever this. Basically what this is $450 an hour of a veterinary practice. Do you understand you can hire a vet for about $60 to $70 an hour who can spay 4 to 10 cats, depending on male, female, and issues, for the same amount of money as they're charging for one animal? Dr. Newbert, speaking of him, he's making, I believe, $40 an hour. This is $450 an hour for a vet practice when we already have all of the resources.
Are we supporting a raise for Dr. Newbert?
That's up to you. I'm not speaking on that. What I'm telling you is you're paying him $40 an hour, and you're looking to pay and use tax money $450 an hour for a vet. Just to give you an example, their pricing, their fees at the vet, central vet, an ear notch $5, state $45, dental $25. If the cat's pregnant, it's $15. If there's a pain injection, if there's testing on and vaccinations, you're up to $100, over $100 for one cat. Mind you, cats that some people view as a nuisance. So you're paying over $100 for one cat when a private vet can spay up to 10 cats in an hour. You could go and have your personal domestic pet spay-neutered on one of these vans for $60, and yet you are considering a contract where you're spay-neutering a cat that no one can even handle for over $100 for one cat. Consider explain where the taxpayers went on this one, or the animals.
First of all, Mr. Supervisor, if I might, my understanding of this contract is that basically it is a supplement to what we already have, and that the doctors will not be used unless it's necessary. Typically, it would be for an animal that needed this procedure at a time when someone from our current staff was unavailable. So,
But thank you, Councilman. You've been advised wrong, because we already have 20 vets. We have 20 contracted vets that will do spay-neuter.
and basically, this also, to my understanding, is upon the advice of Dr. Newbert, who indicated that it would be unhealthy at this time to open up the animal shelter and have it basically populated by people who weren't tested, and we don't know whether they're carrying the virus.
And what kind of expertise does the doctor have in animal sheltering? Because you don't need to let the public in the building to conduct the TNR program.
I don't think there's an expertise in the medical profession for an animal shelter medical expert.
Well, there is, but besides that, you can do this without contact.
This is a public assembly.
This is very troubling to me.
Diane, it's a public assembly issue. It's not.
They will be assembling. Southampton has been doing this routinely throughout COVID. You make an appointment, you drop the cat off, no one is getting in touch with one another. You have grocery store workers that are seeing numerous people all day long. That is not like this. This would be contactless. I ask you to table this. I urge you to table this based on a petition, based on emails, based on the people waiting outside to ask the same thing. I urge you to table this.
Thank you, Ms. Madden. We appreciate your comments as always. Christine Scanfitti? Scanfitti? She could be outside, so let's give it a minute. Yep, wait.
This is a very important thing to write down.
Yeah, thank you. Your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Christine Scanfitti. I live at 399 Gates Avenue, East Meadow, New York. I've been living in Hempstead Township for 31 and a half years. In those years, I've spent tens of thousands of dollars out of pocket to get stray cats and dogs off the streets, to spay and neuter ferals because of the overpopulation. And they don't want to be homeless. They don't want to be hungry. They're victims of careless humans through generations. I was thrilled when Hempstead Township finally began a TNR program. It was excellent. I understand COVID-19 is slashing a lot of state budgets, okay? I get it. I understand that this has been devastating for us. And you've got to put money in so many different areas. and there isn't enough federal assistance for the states. I get it. But I urge you to please vote to find an affordable way to continue TNR services. And honestly, what Diane Madden said, I have to support because I've been walking into the shelter, and if you've ever watched, there is no contact. You walk up to the desk, you fill out a form. No different than I just filled out a form to come in here and speak to you. And I actually pay extra to this township to test for AIDS and leukemia. I actually do something that's quite controversial. I ask them to euthanize cats that have AIDS or leukemia to keep whatever cats we have on this street healthy and clean. Because if we've got an overpopulation, I believe that we should at least thin the population as much as possible. I'm aware that in other countries, they are poisoning and culling cats. I do not want America to become that, okay? I am very controversial to those in the feral stray cat community, but I don't care. I stand up for what I believe because I know it is a severe problem. They are not wanted. Nobody wants them. And they don't want to be out there. They don't want to be out there homeless. Now, I understand. I'm passionate about this. But we have to find a way to be humanitarian. I know you're limited in your funds. I need you to use some funds, whatever you can find, to give us the best TNR program. We should be reopened by now. I had a cat out there that was pregnant.
Thank you. And just so you know, just so any of the residents, I understand. Just so your residents know, this isn't a budgetary decision. As you've heard moments ago, the last speaker said it was going to cost more. So it isn't a budgetary decision. This is a decision about the safety of the men and women I work with. But at the same time, trying to find a way to initiate the program, and again, it's for a 1 year analysis that'll be reviewed. But like I said, it isn't a budgetary decision. We're actually trying to get a program going. But I will tell you, I will always defer to the safety of the men and the women that we all work with here. So I just wanted to, you rest assured, it isn't a budgetary decision, but we appreciate your passion, we appreciate your comments here today. Joanne Cave. Afternoon, name and address for the record, please.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Yes, my name is Joanne Cave, and I am a senior district leader with the Humane Society of the United States for 6 years. I'm here today out of concern for the outsourcing of the taxpayer-funded TNR program that is being considered by the legislature, and I ask for you to respectfully table item number 52. As far as I know, there's only been one proposal received for consideration, and that RFP was only posted on the shelter website. It did not go out. The shelter did not actively seek to receive other competitive proposals, which upon conversations with my many shelter contacts, that is the general procedure. That being said, that certainly does not seem to be fiscally responsible. My own personal experience, I had bees removed from my property. I called 3 different places to find out who would want to do that job and for the best price. The veterinary service, Central Vet of Valley Stream, was quoting an exorbitant fee of $450 an hour for services provided. I checked. One of my trusted shelter partners, a very large, well-known, privately funded shelter on Long Island, paid $80 flat fee per hour for veterinary services. For $450 versus $80, that is huge. So I respectfully ask, how can the town of shelter justify $450 an hour with taxpayer money? And you also have 2 full-time vets on salary at the shelter. So was there an evaluation committee assigned to review this
proposal.
Just for clarification, Commissioner, is it one?
We have one full-time veterinarian on staff.
Oh, thank you.
So, but was there an evaluation committee who was assigned to review this request for proposal before you went ahead and decided that you're going to vote on something that's so astronomically overpriced?
Like I said, as it came to the last speaker who said, it's for budgetary cuts, again, you're saying it costs more. In addition, it's a one-year contract that is going to be monthly evaluated and can be stopped at any time, especially if we get to a point where we'll be able to reinstate the program. The concept isn't in outsourcing or anything like that. I'm going to answer your question. The concept is getting the program going again and doing it. And by the way, the director, and he can attest to the fact that, the cost will be mitigated to a degree because we will not be using the hourly doctors as well. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
It's still cost.
That's okay with you? Yes.
Well, as far as the other shelters that I work with, nobody stopped their TNR program. You can do this safely, so there really wasn't a need for you to feel that you could not provide that. And as a compliment, the town of Hempstead had a really well-run and respected service that it provided to the community. So I'm paying you as a compliment to say that, and the fact that you want to just enable it, it's very unfortunate.
But I said, that's the thing to reflect on, where you're saying, it is a compliment, and do you think we would want to do that to something that's positive? This really comes down to a health issue. It does. You think something out.
It's not comes down to there's other shelters that are not coming in.
I can't speak to the other municipalities, the size of the programs, but I know one thing. I said, whatever Dr. Dave, advises here in the town, he's done a heck of a good job, and he's saved a heck of a lot of lives. And you know what? When we can reinstitute it in a safe manner, we will. But like I said, we're not looking to say, oh, we're taking a good program. To the contrary, it really just comes down to a health issue. And again, we shouldn't interrupt people from the audience. And as we've said, we are working with the health professional, and we face a lot of questions in our society, with our kids going back to school, businesses opening. But I take the health and safety of my coworkers very seriously. Thank you.
But I still would have like to say, as the head of the legislative body, wouldn't you want to do what's most fiscally responsible? Why would you want to exorbitantly overpay for that service, even if you were going to farm it out?
As I said, we're monitoring every single month, and there's someone else that actually might save money, but we'll see. And like I said, we're monitoring every month, and it can be stopped whenever we want during the terms of the next year.
Made up your mind already.
Is my time up?
Yep. Thank you. You have 3 seconds. But thank you very much. We appreciate your
I wanted to
input.
talk to you about your TNR vehicle as well, but I guess I'll save that for another day.
Thank you very much. I'm now going to ask Renee. Thank you very much. Renee Kraft, hold on, before you come up, we're going to sanitize the name. Afternoon, Ms. Kraft, you give me an address for the record?
Good afternoon, Renee Kraft, 3865 Hollis Lane in Seaford. I'd like to request that the resolution not be accepted in regards to number 52. This was not a competitive bid. There was only one response. The response from Central Vet was lacking. Fundamental critical information was missing, such as what services are being provided. Central Vet had not demonstrated in the response the skills required to handle the TNR referrals. They didn't go into how many cats they were going to fix, how they were going to handle recovery, what days and hours of operation, how does the vet interact with the public and trappers, how are kittens, friendlies cared for, how are evals being handled, how are cats with medical needs being handled. The response itself wasn't even a clear response. As a taxpayer, trapper, and animal advocate, I find it appalling that this resolution is even being considered with so many deficiencies. In the response response from Central Vet, who, by the way, has a terrible reputation. Additionally, Central Vet is proposing to charge the town a minimum of $90 just to spay and vaccinate one cat. That is higher than the other vet services offered on Long Island that are offering low-cost spay and neuter. Why would we pay more? Based on this and Town of Hempstead Animal Shelter data from the current TNR program, utilizing Central Vet will increase the cost and drastically to the taxpayers significantly and drastically reduce the services provided, which we once had with our TNR program at the Town of Hempstead Animal Shelter. I created a petition to resume our TNR services and received over 21,000 signatures opposing the undoing of our Town of Hempstead Animal Shelter TNR program. 55 people wrote letters and sent them in for your consideration that were purposefully not read into public comment at the last council meeting. There is a huge backlash on the decisions that are being made to dismantle the Town of Hempstead Animal Shelter TNR program. And you are ignoring your constituents' pleas to stop what you are doing and resume the program as it was. The actions at the council meeting, the last council meeting, on this matter were shameful and anti-democratic. We have spoken. We do not want this resolution to pass. It is not in the best interest of the taxpayers of the Town of Hempstead, nor is it in the best interest of the animals.
Anybody else in the audience wish to be heard on this? Supervisor, can I just ask a question of Commissioner Marino? He's
Right here.
Just so I can get an understanding of this. Central Vet, how has Central Vet been utilized by the Town of Hempstead previously?
Central Vet is a vendor of the Town of Hempstead for, I believe, over 6 years.
Okay.
Never had an issue as far as in the years that I'm here with them. They're very professional. We've looked over their services after this bid went out. We looked at their intake, their operating rooms, and their recovery. We sent the assistant animal shelter director. She said that it's in perfect order for this type of work, and we recommend them for.
Okay, so in the past, at least as long as you've been commissioner, has there been any complaints, any accusations of mistreatment of animals or anything like that?
Yes.
No, sir.
Yes.
No, sir.
Yes.
All right, reading reviews online. I mean, have anybody read Yelp? I mean, come on, you can't always go by reviews online.
It's unfair.
Okay, I think it's actually fair. He does work and represent the Town of Hempstead, so I'm going to continue my questions. Commissioner, if you could also explain to me, and I guess maybe I'm just a little confused. Can you explain to me, I've heard the number $450, and then when I read through the proposal, there were different numbers on the actual proposal. So can you just explain to me the difference of the, I think it's $45 to $45 and the $450, so I can understand if there is a cat that is brought in that needs, just explain the process to me so I can.
Sure, Councilman. This is a requirements contract that's put out by purchasing. There are certain requirements for TNR and trap, neuter, and release. It'll be $45 for a female to be spayed, or $30 for a male dog to be
Plus
neutered.
fees.
There'll be two.
Lots of
There's a $5 fee for here, so it comes out to about $70 an hour.
wrong.
When you hear $450, that's the boilerplate of most veterinarians. That's if we ask the veterinary service to come to the town shelter and perform a TNR job at night or whatever. That's something we wouldn't do. We would always bring the animal there if something happened in the middle of the night.
We already have a
So
contract.
that would never happen.
We already have a contract.
So,
Commissioner, also, just to a matter of clarification too, was that, how was it, posted on the town website, was it posted anywhere else?
It's a purchasing contract, but it was probably, we normally do it as we did everything else.
hold on. Mr. Lombardi?
Yes, Supervisor, it was posted not only on the town website, but on Long Island Business News, South Shore local papers, and the New York State Contract Report.
So it was posted not only the town website, it was posted in Long Business News,
Some local
local papers, and
in the New York
so it just wasn't limited to the town animal shelter website? Oh, that's great. Thank you very much for the clarification. Thank you.
One proposal. Councilman
Okay,
Boyd,
thank
will
you.
speak on this?
All right. Anybody else in the public wish to be heard on this matter?
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner. If not, I have a motion on the administrative calendar.
Supervisor?
And we have any, Madam Clerk, anything you need to read in?
Yes, I have an email from Valerie Lamb. Please reinstate the TNR program of the TOH shelter as it was. This is the best decision financially, and it's also what is best for the animals. I read each of the 70 emails submitted last month on the subject alone. For the first time that I can recall, every single animal advocate is on the same exact page. We do not want these services outsourced. Everyone wants the program reopened exactly as it was, the way it was. The almost 22,000 signatures on the petition are asking for the exact same action. The proposal submitted by Central Vet is concerning. Proof of insurance is missing, workers' comp and disability. The coverage letter provided to show proof of general liability is expired. The hourly rate quoted at $450 per hour for on-site vet care is outrageous and astronomical. It claims to have a prearranged schedule for this care. That schedule was not provided. I have been asking who is on the evaluation committee for weeks, and no one can tell me. Commissioner Marino has yet to get back to me in spite of this information being at his fingertips. In addition to this, I'd also like to know how did Central Vet score. There are many procedural holes in this proposal as well. There is no mention of what they'll do with the adoptable kittens, cats. Where will the recovery take place? What will happen with the foster program? How will they work with the trappers? Will they still offer the public the opportunity to borrow traps? And who will teach them how to use them? How will they handle the FELV/FIV cats? None of this was specified in the proposal. You have a distinct opportunity to listen to the people who care a tremendous amount about this one issue. You have a crystal clear path to do the right thing for the taxpayers, the animals, and those who love them. Please vote no on this proposal and reinstate the TNR program as it was today. Thank you, Valerie Lamb. I have another email from Heather Mancuso. Dear town officials, I'm writing regarding the town of Hempstead trap neuter return program to express my extreme concern regarding the bid proposed by Central Vet. That's 43-2020. The town of Hempstead has been providing an essential service to residents by neutering and vaccinating community cats. This exceptional program is of great use of my tax dollars and has improved our community by neutering and vaccinating cats as well as pulling adoptable cats from the street. Trappers and residents work hand in hand with the town shelter, and this has been an irreplaceable partnership. Unfortunately, this program has been put on hold and could potentially be frivolously given to Central Vet to run. Without this program run as is, hundreds of cats will continue to reproduce on the streets. Trappers and residents will spend upwards of $75 per cat for neutering, vaccinating, and related services. As a taxpayer and a cat advocate, I am demanding that this essential program be reopened at the town shelter immediately and the Central Vet bid be denied. The town of Hempstead shelter has been impeccably running the TNR program, which is a great use of my tax dollars. Unfortunately, Central Vet has proposed to take over this program. This will be a financial burden to the taxpayers and promises to decrease functionality of an already near perfect program. Central Vet has submitted a bid that provides no concrete information on how their version of the program will run. How many cats are they capable of fixing each day? Will they be providing 48 hours of recovering for those cats? What will happen with injured, sick, or adoptable cats? As a taxpayer, I'm appalled that this bid is even being considered with so many holes. On top of this, I feel this transfer of responsibility of the program will waste tax dollars, and I'm not okay with that. Central Vet is proposing charging the town a minimum of $90 just to spay and vaccinate a cat. This doesn't include the cost if a cat comes in pregnant, $15, in heat, $10, or with a hernia, $15, just to name a few. How much will they charge for a cat with an upper respiratory infection? And will they hold and medicate this cat for weeks, as the TOH shelter did? This procedure of charging per cat promises to be much more costly to the public than the current system of utilizing current salaried employees at the shelter to run this program. As a taxpayer and cat advocate, I implore you to open the TNR program now, to reconsider reconsider RFP 43-2020 and to deny the central bid. Sincerely, Heather Mancuso. And the last email is from Barbara Palm Baldwin with respect to the authorization of C-43-2020, a contract for yearly requirements for the TNR services for the town of Hempstead Animal Shelter due to occur on Tuesday, August 4th, 2020. I propose the contract be reevaluated for cost effectiveness. Due diligence would require the new contractor cost the town of Hempstead taxpayers less than what is currently being budgeted for TNR. Production of this analysis would allay taxpayers' concerns of wastefulness. Further, the town selection committee was to review the TNR bidder's proposal for various factors. Yet the information submitted as of June 24th, 2020 by the known bidder for TNR is silent with respect to the bidder's ability to handle an average of 25 cats per day for TNR surgery, as the town does not mention where the trapped cats will be held prior and subsequent to the surgery, nor does it discuss the ability to isolate cats with upper respiratory and ringworm. The proposal evokes a well-equipped and staffed veterinarian office capable of handling pets, dogs, cats, and exotic animals, but that is not germane to TNR program. I suggest this decision be tabled and further review of the candidate be performed and a cost analysis be performed to compare the current expenses to the proposed. Thank you, Barbara Palm.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. May I have a motion on the administrative calendar?
Excuse me, I'd like to speak for you. In light of getting additional information. It's hard to make a comment when you don't have all of the information in place. There were this disinfecting thing, you can't keep sanitizing with the same breath, but I digress. Rita Meredith, Baldwin resident.
Ms. Meredith, did you already speak in the administrative calendar?
Can only speak once on the administrative calendar?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
How was that?
That's been a policy for a long time. We have the miscellaneous after.
Okay, well, I really won't be here for miscellaneous, and since the time is already taken and I'm responding here.
We have to follow procedure on this, Ms. Meredith. You've been here, and I appreciate that, but you've already spoken in the administrative calendar, so we're going to make a motion. You can't stick around after. We're going to stick around and do the to take the public comments after. So thank you. They have a motion on the administrative calendar.
Wow.
I move that we adopt the administrative calendar.
Supervisor Clayton?
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman?
Aye.
Councilman Carini?
Aye.
Councilman D'Esposito?
Before I vote, I just want to make one comment. I want to thank the members of the town board for, again, the leadership in the CARES funding. The emergency resolutions that were presented today affected a lot of communities in my district, the village of Cedarhurst, the village of East Rockaway, the village of Island Park, the village of Lynbrook, the village of Valley Stream. As Councilman Blakeman mentioned before, I look forward to continue to work with the village of Malvern, Woodsburg, the Ulits, and Brockville Center to provide CARES funding to them for their PPE. And I also want to quickly comment on item number 9, which is bringing telehealth to the town of Hempstead. And I want to commend Dr. Dave and his leadership. The fact that he has really led the way during the coronavirus pandemic. I know it's been said before, but I proudly say it again. He has, without a doubt, him and his team have saved lives here in the town of Hempstead, not only for our co-workers and their families, but for our residents. So bringing telehealth, which expands the ability of our EMS personnel, which is a group that is kind of something that I'm proud to see expand, and it's something that I always support, and I know that I always bother my town board colleagues with stuff for EMS, but they're doing a great job. They've done a great job through the pandemic, and it's nice to see that we're at the forefront of technology in keeping our co-workers and their families and our residents safe. So Dr. Dave, great job, great leadership, and to the town board, thank you. I proudly vote aye.
Councilman Dunn?
I'd like to have Dr. Dave stand up and be recognized for his outstanding service, not only to the workers here, thank you. Please keep up the good work. Don't be tired. I vote yes.
Senior Councilwoman Gooseby?
I yes, and I had him say all those things that he said to me too. And Dr. Dave, I think you personally, you know, even though you were not my physician, I know that you came to the hospital and you checked on me while I was there. So thank you so much for that. And certainly I thank all of my colleagues and all of those who work and others who gave me all those prayers. So I sit here today because of those prayers. So thank you all very much. And I vote yes.
Councilman Muscarella.
Before we start the list, I do want to take a moment to thank all the coworkers here in the town of Hempstead, from every department, public safety, sanitation. You're doing an amazing job during this pandemic, and I don't want to single out departments, and please don't take it if I do, but a perfect example is our great lifeguards and EMSs who have been dealing with capacity limitations on crowds, safeguards, heat waves, sharks in the water. Really, on behalf of, and I know I speak for every member of this board, when we say to the men and women we work with in the town, you've been doing an amazing job during this pandemic. You've been doing an amazing job, and the residents have just been as amazing working with every single one of you. And I just want to say thank you to all of them.
If I may just supplement your remarks, I too want to recognize something that I've been seeing for the last couple of weeks. Our maintenance staff has done an amazing job getting this facility and all of our facilities safe and sanitized. And I think they've been the unsung heroes. And I also want to thank all our staff that came in during the pandemic. Thank you for coming to work. And thank you to our public safety personnel for coming to work in a difficult time. Supervisor, you're absolutely right. Our people have been amazing.
And I forgot to mention, thank you, Commissioner, for all of those who worked so hard in the cemetery. People don't think about them. But it was very, very rough for them. We had over 18 burials a day, and they worked hard. It was a lot of work. I would never have been able to do that, and surely would like to do it. So I give them all the praise for all that they have done. So thank you so much for that.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Blakeman.
Aye.
Councilman Carini.
Aye.
Councilman Esposito.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Senior Councilwoman Dewsby. Councilman Muscarella.
Now that the formal portion of the meeting is done, I'm going to stick around to hear comments from the residents. If you haven't yet, please fill out a form, and we're going to ask you to come up. But please remember, before you come up, make sure the area has been sanitized by the great workforce here. Maria Lucia Angeles? Did they say it right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Your name and address for the record?
Yes, I asked to be heard on FOIL requests. Earlier this year, Newsday had raised the fact that FOIL requests were being ignored by the town of Hempstead. And subsequent to that, you, Supervisor Clayton, publicly stated that if the requester is entitled to its FOIL demand, then the town has to release those documents. In my case, it's been 5 months plus since I filed FOIL requests, and I made numerous calls and numerous emails to you, to Supervisor, to you as Supervisor, to Town Clerk Murray, to Councilman Anthony Esposito, thank you. I apologize. And they were ignored repeatedly. And so I want to know, what is it that, how do you justify this deliberate indifference? If you have a duty, and the people have a right under FOIL to request and to be given FOIL documents, what is your take on it? So nobody is returning my calls, nobody is returning my emails, nothing has been done. Why?
Well, I can answer if you'd like to stick around. We have, in the back room, we've set up a room with a plexi guard in between for social distancing. Why don't we stick around here? We'll have one of these assistants go in the back, find out what your FOIL request is and the timetable on if the response or anything has been done. But if you go right to the back room, it's a sanitized room, and again, we've set up a plexi guard right in between that I'll have one of the staff members go back there and get the information.
I think we're safe, but the distance...
Well, I can't speak to it right now, so I have to get all the information. So, like I said, if you'd like to go to the back, we'd be delighted to give you a helping hand.
So do you believe the town of Hempstead has a duty to disclose documents requested under FOIA?
If someone's entitled to something under FOIA request, they're entitled to it and they should get it. That's my position. When I came in, I can't speak for, what's happened in prior years with the last administration. All I know is, we did an inquiry and we got a response timely. But please go to the back of the room and I'll have one of the staff members go back there, get the information, and I'll be happy to follow up with you. Okay? Guys, can you show to the back room what you get to? Thank you very much. Stuart Kroll. Kathy, Malone, maybe you can get the information for that. Thank you very much. Name and address for the record, please.
Stuart Kroll, Great Neck. Of course, I'm not the least bit surprised that that resolution passed. We never should have been having a discussion to begin with on whether or not Central Vet or any other vet takes over until us is paid into the program. I know you said it's not a cost-cutting measure. I do think that has something to do with it. The one very positive aspect of the shelter was this program. The first post-COVID meeting, $750,000 was given out in raises and promotions with no public questioning possible. Was this last-minute giveaway program really necessary? Was this more important than maintaining an excellent program? All services were closed for 3 months, causing the kitten population to go largely unchecked. This leads to unnecessary suffering for innocent animals out on the street. As the reviews I quoted from clearly indicated, Central Vet has a horrible reputation. Apparently that made no difference. To give a large contract to such a group is tantamount to paying $4,200 per dog to road the home to take our behaviorally challenged dogs. As I recall, that situation didn't work out very well. I also recall our shelter director giving this Utica facility a clean bill of health a few scant months before tragic conditions were revealed. How is it possible to ignore a petition with over 21,000 signatures? Most of these signatures represent voters in your districts. Why is it so important to curtail this program? Do you not realize that we're making people more aware of what their representatives are doing? Perhaps none of this would have progressed so far had not Tony Santino pushed through legislation as a lame duck that ensured that no union employees could be removed regardless of whatever financial hardships might ensue. In the real world, such morally questionable policies could never pass. The last giveaway program to party loyalists and friends has caused large ripple effects. A month ago, we could not be present at the meeting. Our only possible means of communicating the will of the people was totally silenced, as our emails were not read into the record. I am quite sure as soon as all board members left this meeting, they rushed home to read our emails. Mr. Clayton, we had high hopes for you. I hope I'm not disturbing anybody up there. Unfortunately, that reality has turned out to be quite different. I accurately remember you saying you were going to accept all commissioner registrations. How many of them have been removed? I thought so. I also recall you publicly promising, and I was there, to have Diane Madden be involved in improving shelter conditions. Please tell me what happened with that promise. Just as NBC News paid you a surprise visit, we will be utilizing all means possible, including our 2,000-member group, to support animal-friendly candidates. Those that won't commit either way, I won't mention who that pertains to, helping our cause, we will vigorously try to oppose from taking office. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Felix Bertacci?
On March 19th, 8 days after the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 to be a pandemic, the Village of Floral Park held a public meeting. This meeting limited the number of persons that could attend, but also offered the public a dial-in option to afford public participation or to listen in. At the Village Board meeting of April 7th, a video conference option was also offered to residents using Zoom. To date, the village has continued to offer the public these three methods of actively participating in their government. It is important to note that the Village of Floral Park does not have a technology department. In contrast, the town of Hempstead, with an information technology budget exceeding $5 million, took over a month to set up an email address where residents could submit their comments. The town did not provide any interactive method for residents to participate except for the June 23rd hearing on the Woodmere Club resolution. Residents concerned about other issues had to be content with submitting their comments via email. When Supervisor Clayton refused to allow citizen comments to be read aloud at the July 1st meeting, he felt it sufficient to provide copies to all board members. When Clayton called on Governor Cuomo to allow gyms to reopen and in-person graduations, he didn't just send Cuomo an email. He used town resources, including the town's press secretary and videographer, to get the word out. Residents do not have access to these resources. During this pandemic, board members have been touting the town's medical director, Dr. Dave Newberg, suggesting that residents seek his advice. It is important to note that after the pandemic was declared, Supervisor Clayton vowed to keep town senior centers open, and Dr. Newberg supported this decision. Town officials, including Dr. Newberg, gathered together, none of them wearing masks or staying 6 feet apart, telling residents that town is being proactive. In addition, the first COVID-19 mailing from the town did not even suggest the use of face coverings or social distancing. In contrast, on March 17, 6 days later, when my daughter had to vacate her dorm, virtually all students and parents were wearing face masks. Being proactive means making decisions based on facts, not waiting for instructions from others. And finally, Clayton's statements implying that in-person meetings were prohibited by the governor's executive orders is false. The governor's orders just eliminated the public attendance mandate. It did not ban public attendance at town board meetings.
Thanks, Mr. Bikashi. Just so you know, we actually didn't call for the opening of gyms. We actually called on the county to have the health commission to look at each facility differently, so they're all not the same. I'm sure you misunderstood that, but I'm happy to clarify that. Next, I'd like to say Lynn Kramer. Name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Lynn Kramer on 73 Beach Road, Massapequa. I represent the employees at Nassau University Medical Center and A. Kelly Patterson Nursing Home, only public nursing home in Nassau County. I noticed that a lot of the other entities were getting CARES Act money, and we greatly appreciate that. I think you guys did a wonderful job keeping the residents in Nassau safe, town of Hempstead residents safe. It wasn't easy to do, and we appreciate all your hard work. We were just wondering if A. Holly Patterson would be able to get some of the CARES Act money to have testing done for the employees, keeping the residents safe at the nursing home, keeping the employees safe at the nursing home, and also keeping the residents that they're exposed to of Nassau County safe.
Look, Ms. Kramer, your CSCA, the county union?
Yes.
Okay.
At Nassau University Medical Center.
Okay, that's good. I know we teamed up with the medical center early to do a grant to alleviate some of the BBB. My question is, the county executive, I know Nassau County was allotted $100+ million in care funding. Have you asked them, and are they providing that?
No, we haven't asked them. We thought that the CARES Act money would be some money would be allotted for A. Holly, since it's the only public nursing home as well.
Like I said, I would imagine first, the Nassau County would be the first entity that should be asked about. We're trying to team up with all facilities, and we're trying to also team up with villages, the first responders, and many other entities. But may I respectfully suggest, you talk to the county first. One case in example is, we did grant the Nassau University Medical Center $1 million, and we just didn't give them money. We actually credit a mechanism that they have to provide receipts. So we have a record early. I would suggest, since it is a county-run facility, the county would initially have that obligation. Maybe that's a discussion you can have with the county executive. feel free to contact me after, and we can circle back. But I'd love to see what the county's position is on using some of the care funding for their facility there at College Patterson. And I'd love to follow up after you get a response or facilitate a meeting with you and the county executive.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you. We will use it for, testing.
I got you. Absolutely. And like I said, we teamed up with Northwell last week, for testing for the residents. But like I said, see what it is, and if you can, I'd love to help facilitate something along the way.
Thanks for everything.
Always good to see you. By the way, thank you for the amazing job you're doing out there. Sometimes I just don't think a lot of these workforces appreciate it, and the CSEA, these essential workers that are out there doing all these jobs. You're doing a tremendous work, so thank you.
The employees at the hospital really, really worked hard to keep people safe, and it was really horrible for them, so.
Amazing job is more the word to use to describe it. Amazing job.
Thank you. I'll pass that on to the staff. Thank you.
Please. Pearl Jacobs? Hey, Lynn, can you just give someone the card so I have your contact information and follow up with you?
Sure.
You got it, thank you. Ms. Jacobs not here? Okay. Marvin? Marvin? Is that right? There you go. If you give your name and address for the record, thank you.
Marvin Hempstead, talented. Speaks more than one community, I guess. This is my first town meeting, and it's definitely not going to be my last. The community that I represent has awoken because they've been sleeping. I'm here to ask, I'm actually pretty ignorant as well. I don't know much, and it's been a hard task trying to find the information. If you guys have a PR person, I don't know if they're doing their job as probably they should be. The website that somebody has inquired me before, it's horrible. Getting information from that website is like picking a needle out of the haystack.
I appreciate that comment. I'm not a big fan of the website either, so I appreciate that, what you're saying there. So
No problem.
we're actually looking at that. So you know what? You and I are on the same page. Thank you.
No problem. It's hard to get people in the communities where we don't. Let me be honest, my parents immigrated from Haiti and they got here. So the information that they're getting, or that they can get, is not blatantly in front of them. So how are they supposed to get me that information? And how are other people in the community supposed to get that information? How are people in the community supposed to know that there's a talent over there? Especially people my age. Guys, social media is a thing. You guys have social media. You guys can get the information out to people. And for some odd reason, it seems like it's so hard for the information to get put out. I don't know what it is, but it seems like you have to go really searching for information in order to get it. I live in Hempstead, but I say Unionville because I went to school in the Unionville School District. And there are a lot of businesses and homes that are just like not being taken care of, or just nothing happening with those locations. And that's craziness when we have so many different creative entrepreneurs in the town that should be filling these positions up. For the businesses, there's the Nassau Hub that's opening up. And I don't know if anybody from Unionville is being talked to about that. And we have a lot of people who have a lot of ideas that can go into helping something like that. So I ask you, who is in charge of something like that? Who do we get in contact with to get that information?
Presently, it's not operating. You know that.
Yep.
Okay, I have your number on your slip. Your phone number. Okay, I'll take that. I'll call you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. By the way, thank you very much, and I'm glad you came today. Renee Kraft?
Well,
Joanne Cave. Great. Your name and address for the record, please.
Joanne Cave, Senior District Leader with the Humane Society of the United States. I hung around just to make a comment because what Valerie Lamb had read into record, her email, raised some very important questions regarding the many unanswered questions relating to the outsourcing of the TNR services. Like how will the trapping work, the training to trap, the lending of traps, recuperation after TNR, and adoptable kittens and cats. All things that obviously are very important to the program. Also, I was very shocked to learn that the town of Hempstead has a mobile TNR unit that was purchased in March of 2015 with taxpayer money. And in 5 years, the recently foiled record revealed that there is only 1,881 miles on it. So clearly, this vehicle is not being utilized even remotely close to its potential. And perhaps use of this existing vehicle can be incorporated into a plan for retaining the TNR program on premise.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. Anything else you want to add?
No, not unless you'd like to add your thoughts on why that vehicle is not being utilized.
We appreciate your comments and we appreciate any feedback you give us. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, have a great day. Stay drive home safely, please. Ms. Marinette? He's going to call up. Ms. Marinette, let me just clean up there first.
Meeting Meredith Holden, resident. I'm sad that Ms. Jacobs wasn't able to continue to stand out in the wind and rain before she was able to speak.
We had the pavilion open with seats for people to sit there, so they wouldn't have to stand outside. We actually took that into consideration because of the weather.
And I tell you, you know, those rats we use, they're all things that's that, we use a fresh one. They're not the same, it's never because we don't want you to say, I don't want you to say.
Right, okay. I appreciate that, and I'm glad that you are doing better. And as I said earlier, for those that say that, you know, it's time to look up the website and pull up information, as I said, since March 12th, I have been working in Queens, pretty much front lines, and I'm a 9/11 first responder with vulnerable conditions on my own. But I had to step up to work with a critical care physician with its over 3,000 patients, including veterans and people of color who are in a vulnerable status due to this pandemic. So unfortunately, I don't have the time or resources to delve into we all agree upon the disaster called our website. I continue to be stressed at the fact that there were 21,000, that was the point I wanted to make with regard to the item 52, that 21,000 people took the time to sign a petition that we were not going to allow them an opportunity to possibly be here at September 8th to speak about the issue as it pertains to TNR, speaks loudly to, once again, not feeling that we have representation for the amount of money and the taxes that we pay in this township. I continue to be disappointed as I look through the record of this agenda, once again, that we continue to use contracting for politically connected, relationally connected people in this township to the detriment of the residents who do pay their taxes here, who are working very hard to try to stay here and have no representation. I have yet to see, again, any diversity as it pertains to inclusion. Not one contractor has been listed on that document or publicly stated as a minority, woman, veteran, disabled, business enterprise. That is a problem for me. And to once again see applications for gas stations, be it convenience stores or whatever, proliferating in communities, particularly those of color, when there's an 18-page conservancy document for the Woodmere Country Club, based upon the premise that there's public input in making sure that we keep an environmentally sound community for the residents. But there's no input and no, who's protecting the interests of these residents where you're getting all these gas stations and there's no diversity here? Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed.
Thank you, Ms. Meredith. Kelly Stewart? Check outside to see if Kelly Stewart's still here. Looking to speak. Thank you very much. Your name and address for the record?
Hello, Kelly Stewart, Mayor New York. And I'm speaking about the TNR for the town of Hempstead. My daughter Tara is here with me today, and we both do TNR locally in our neighborhood. I rushed over here after watching it online because I felt so urgent to speak about this that I felt the message wasn't getting across appropriately. I understand when I was listening to it saying it's not budgetary, it's not budgetary. I had more contact with employees here than I do when I do TNR on Hempstead. I go into the town of Hempstead, they know me. I don't always have to show my ID because they know me. They know where I live. I do show my ID when asked. I live in the right town. I present my ID. I fill out my card. I take my papers to the back of the shelter. One of the people come out. They usually take the animal directly out of my car, or I will leave it on the ground and they'll take it. They'll cover it with a sheet and take it. That's the contact. None. None. I mean, if you put a shield at that front of the shelter, you would have nothing. It was just like with the ladies handing the cards. So I was wondering what really is going on. That
Politics.
why is it really being outsourced? It's a fantastic program. I have felt pinched by it because now if I want to, spay and neuter has been going on through this whole thing. You can go to almost any vet and they'll do it. We're driving out to Bayshore for the cheapest prices. So I would really like to know, we want the employees to be safe as well, but I feel they are safe. There's very limited contact. And if you're saying, if you have somebody, you do have a guard at the door, one person in that lobby at a time, if they're dropping off. So how is it not safe if we put those provisions of one person in the lobby at a time to fill out paperwork?
Any other comments?
I know, but I wanted to answer how it's not safe.
Okay, like I said, we're always going to go with our medical professional who says, you know, right now there are restrictions down there, and the later time we can open it, we will. Again, you know what, this is about getting some kind of program going, especially during the pandemic, but with the overriding safety concerns of our employees. So thank you very much.
I ask also then, if other vets are doing this safely, how is it justified that it's not safe?
I can't speak for other facilities or how the operations are done or their safety protocols or not. But it is public, you know, comment time. We appreciate all your thoughts on this, so thank you very much.
And I have one other question is, if I did see the proposal, and again, it doesn't list any of the concerns that we all have of state overtime, 48 hours for females. Do we have any input if we want them euthanized, if FIV or leukemia, any of those things? My other concern is, obviously when they know who the big trappers are, they know who does the most volume, to ask for their input. I know there's a few people here that, I know the people that are not here that are some of the biggest trappers in the town of Hempstead. One of them is John DeBacker, and I don't understand why you wouldn't ask for input from some of these people. If they could get who the top 5 people are, maybe ask for input would be definitely taking the town's opinion into consideration. And I just want to thank you.
Thank you very much for coming and drive home safely. Anyone else wish to be heard in public section comment? If not, everybody please remain safe, and you've already spoken, Ms. Madden. Thank you very much. What? Miscellaneous? I'm sorry. Miscellaneous? Ms. Madden? Oh, I'm sorry.
Supervisor, you talked about open and transparency, and there's...
Ms. Madden, before you go, did you speak in this whole part?
No.
Okay, just want to make sure. That's all. Just checking the thing. That's all.
There's nothing open and transparent about this. Who is here? You have a director and a commissioner. By the way, there was something posted from Janice Blake, who is a friend of Mr. Marino's at the racetrack, and said she suspects this contract went through because they both own racehorses and are very good friends. So when that speaker just came and said, what else is going on here, I'd like to know. What is going to happen with the animals that are euthanized? There's no fee listed in the $450 an hour veterinary practice. Where is that fee? Can you stop the clock, please?
Yeah, I can say that.
Ms. Bennett, public comment.
What is the fee to euthanize a cat, and do they have case numbers?
Thank you.
How did you open Camp Anchor with their much-needed volunteers, and yet you have prohibited animal shelter volunteers from doing a contactless walking of dogs? Instead of standing up there like Santa Claus giving out free food to minorities, how about reforming your hiring processes and give these people jobs? There was a volunteer, no, I'm honest. I am honest. Instead of standing out, yes, they need food, but they need jobs. They're not just for friends and family. Volunteer letter. Ms. Murray, not to put you on the spot, but the volunteers, I believe over 60 of them, sent a heartfelt letter. I just received a copy of it. No one has read it into the record.
We are waiting for the live speakers after you end. I had just signaled to Supervisor Clavin that I have...
I do appreciate that. Thank you. Supervisor Clavin, I'm out of order. Supervisor Clavin, you promised during your campaign to accept the resignation of commissioners, and you're here today relying on the feedback and the recommendations from the same person you promised, and I have a text that would be removed if you won this election. Tony Santino lost his election to kitty cats. I don't know what planet you're on, that you refuse to answer questions, that you refuse to do what's in the best interest of animals and the taxpayers. There are many questions about this contract. At the very least, it should have been put aside until the next meeting when all these people had the opportunity to speak on this. And yet, the board carelessly passed an egregious contract. I thought the first time I'd be in front of the board, I would be talking about the outrageous and insulting nearly $800,000 in raises for friends and family. The first opportunity you all had when we were prohibited after COVID was announced. But this contract holds the potential, a year in itself, for over $1 million.
Thank you as always.
Just in 1 year.
We appreciate it. Madam Clerk, do you have any
Well, I have one thing to say. I hope that I misunderstood you when you said he's thinking out there taking care of minorities.
What I said, and what I strongly suggest, and yes, I am saying, that these minorities are cheated in a sense that they don't have a fair opportunity for employment in this town. And shame on any board that would clearly abuse the kind of power you now have to do good things.
Thank you.
So I think you should start talking about other things that
Madam Clerk, do you have any
taxpayer
emails you'd like to read into the record?
I do. I have
Thank you.
3.
Okay, great.
The first one is from Renee Krabs. I know she was mentioned, she's left, but she also had sent an email to the Town of Hempstead Supervisor Donald Clayman and the council members. I'm a taxpayer living in the Town of Hempstead. When I first moved here, I was so happy to find out that my town shelter had a TNR program. I have been a trapper for approximately 20 years. I know how important it is to trap feral cats and take them to be spayed and neutered. I've seen so much suffering. The cats are born to suffer and die. They starve, they freeze, they fight, and get wounded. They get infections. Some lose their eyes or get a head tilt from a bad ear. They can barely breathe from URIs. They get run over by cars. They get killed and eaten by raccoons. They have worms and parasites so bad they are eaten alive from the inside out. They have prolapsed rectums. They suffer. Some people notice and they feed and they provide shelter, but then the neighbors get upset and hate the person who tried to help them, and then the cats get poisoned by the one who sees them as a nuisance. This is why spay and neuter is so important. If the cats weren't born in the first place, there would be no suffering. I'm devastated that you took away the one thing that could combat this suffering. As a taxpayer, like many others, we allocated funding to the animal shelter TNR program, a much-needed program not just for TOH, but for all of Long Island. We want our program back. We demand to have it back. At the time of my writing this letter, over 21,000 people and counting have signed a petition demanding that you give it back. The Town of Hempstead Animal Shelter should resume their TNR program immediately. It is the ethical thing to do. Your taxpayers want it. Again, that was from Renee Kraft of Seaford, New York. I have an email from Barbara Palm of Baldwin. Currently, waste of my Town of Hempstead tax dollars. Currently, the Town of Hempstead is setting the stage to fritter away my tax dollars. We're paying 3 entities to do the same work currently performed by the Town Shelter employees. In years past, Town of Hempstead maintained an animal shelter to house lost pets, strays, and surrendered pets from residents. The town worked to care and shelter the animals, to run an adoption program to get homes for the animals, to remove kittens living on the streets, to sterilize the adult community cats, to work with dogs with behavioral issues so they would be good pets, to reduce euthanasia rates so statistically there would be a no-kill shelter, and to create an environment that would be people-friendly, and encourage youth groups and animal rescue groups to visit the shelter. COVID changed our lives. Everything was shuttered. The pandemic reigned. Now, 5 months later, businesses and organizations are returning to activity. Veterinarians are seeing patients, and rescue groups are doing adoptions, allowing only screened doctors wearing masks into the buildings and accepting new rescues. Town of Hempstead Shelter, the surgery and the medical staff have been wearing masks, gowns, and gloves throughout the pandemic and doing surgery on injured animals and medical care of shelter residents. Animal control officers have been doing limited field work, and a reduced workforce has been manning the building itself. Other employees have been performing their work from home, excuse me, and many part-timers were laid off. Residents began agitating for limiting reopening of the shelter programs. Instead, the town announced in June that they were looking for bidders to run the TNR program out of the shelter. The one known reply to this bid request was Central Vet of Valley Stream, a multi-location veterinary office with locations in Queens, North Hempstead Township, as well as Valley Stream. The town extended the bid submission from June 18th to June 25th, and Central Vet filed on June 24th. Their bid proposal described the expertise of their office, staff, and equipment to handle surgeries of dogs and cats. No mention was made of their experience in handling community cats. Central Vet did not describe a proposed TNR schedule beyond to mention that cats would be accepted 4 days a week as requested by the town. Central Vet's proposal was silent as to the number of cats they were planning on accepting from the town's residents, nor was the location of the recuperation facility described. The town council announced the acceptance of the bid would be announced at the August 4th town meeting. A bid request was announced the end of July for the privatization of the shelter itself. I was advised by knowledgeable individuals who perused the RFP prepared by the town for bidders that the request was not for the bidder to run the entire shelter operations. Basically, the bidder was to handle adoptions, care with the sheltered animals, and handle public relations. The shelter would still have animal care officers, and no employees would lose town employment unless they choose to work for the bidder or quit. And why was the TNR RFP to be awarded before the shelter privatization? Bidders were even due for its submission on August 31st, 2020. It would strongly appear that by the close of 2020, if all bids are awarded, the taxpayers will be paying for Town of Hempstead Shelter employees, for Central Vet TNR expenses, and for the winning bidder expenses on the shelter privatization RFP. Sadly, I do not have all facts and figures. Based upon my involvement with the TNR program since 2009, I feel comfortable stating the shelter easily performs surgery on 25 plus community cats a day. Town records reflect the shelter veterinarian's salary was $100,000 in 2018, or roughly $300 a day. And the daily vet work would involve other shelter medical activities beside the TNR. Missing is the second vet's payments and independent contractor. In comparison, Central Vet is going to charge the town a minimum average of $72 a cat, normal male $65, and normal female $80 divided by 2. If they did 25 cats, they would charge the town $1,800 a day. I believe the addition of the cost of the second vet to the in-house TNR costs will reflect a lesser fee. I believe this shows the town of Hempstead taxpayers will be paying less with in-house TNR and more by utilizing off-site TNR facility. Concerning the privatization of a town function, most town employees are civil service members of CSEA, receive benefits and pensions, and therefore jobs will have to be found for them if their current job is eliminated. The low bidder to run part of the town shelter may well supply new employees and volunteers, but no matter what deals are struck as to what workers are no longer needed at the shelter, these employees will be found financially commensurate employment with the town, and therefore the town payroll payments are not being reduced. And now the town will be responsible for contractual payment for the winning bidder. The end result appears to be additional monies being paid to the new bid winner, and the already employed town employees. And ultimately, the monies the town receives comes from the public, the taxpayer. I do not see where these bid proposals are in the best interest of the hard-working town of Hempstead resident and taxpayer. It appears to me that we are paying almost what exists now, with the exception of some part-time employees, plus adding payments to 2 RFP winners. I urge you not to award either contract to a third party. Again, that's Barbara Palm of Baldwin. This is from C.J. Ray. I don't know where this person is from. Due to COVID-19, please receive and review this email into the minutes, and read this email into the minutes of the August 4th, 2020 Town Board meeting for the Town of Hempstead. The volunteer program at the Town of Hempstead Animal Shelter has been in practice for 10 years. On any given day, 30 volunteers show up free of charge and donate their time in the form of walking dogs and socializing cats and kittens. We participate in day out, I think it's day in, day out, of the shelter, foster field trips, and public events showcasing our animals. For 4 months, our activities have been fully suspended. We understand that COVID-19 has changed the world as we know it. Thankfully, Nassau County has been elevated to level 4. We respectfully request to be returned to our active duties. Other municipal shelters and rescue organizations have been up and fully functioning for 3 weeks now. Protocols include PPE, limiting schedules which reduces contact, and having volunteers refrain from entering the facility, and dogs put in outside pens. For 3 weeks, these organizations have not had one issue. With the current situation and the reduction in part-time staff, the free volunteers are more valuable than ever before. Please reinstate the volunteer program as we look forward to helping the homeless dogs and cats have a better quality of life. Could you imagine being used in an interaction of 1 hour, which included walking, training, sitting, brushing, reduced to a 20-minute pen visit? Respectfully, the active volunteers of the Town of Hempstead. And last, email from Valerie Lamb from the Shoes of the People. We believe that good government includes public participation. While the COVID-19 pandemic has presented many challenges, there are many examples of municipalities finding ways to allow for and even urge the public's participation. Many have leveraged Zoom or Microsoft Teams. Others have provided traditional conference call options, and others offered the option of in-person meetings with social distancing and masks. Floral Park is an excellent example of a municipality that actually offers all 3 of the aforementioned ways to participate and to be heard. Where there's a will, there's a way, and I'm not speaking for myself, but on behalf of the 70 people who composed an email, which for the first time went unread into the microphone. We believe that America's largest township can do better. This is a historical time where leaders will rise to the top and shine. This is an era where your public should be encouraged to speak up on any issue, and you as their representatives should want to hear from them now more than ever. How else can you weigh their concerns? Also, they may have some fantastic ideas and solutions. I believe the meeting should be promoted, and at least 1 week prior to public meetings, people should be encouraged to attend, email, etc. Merely having a calendar on the town website is not enough. That is, not if you really want to hear from your constituents. Lastly, in addition to the emails, a petition with almost 22,000 signatures was not ever addressed. As Renee Kraft, who authored the petition and is a Town of Hempstead resident, so eloquently put it, it is not enough for our emails to be read. We deserve answers. I couldn't agree more. What about you? That's from Valerie Lamb. That's the last email that we received.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and thank you for all attending today, and everybody have a safe August and a safe ride home this afternoon. Thank you.